Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and let me introduce you to my favorite anime of the season. If isekais making me want to jump in front of a truck wasn't enough, this anime makes me want to jump in front of one 100 times over. The anime. As the name suggests, watching this anime makes you want to dive in headfirst to your local truck much more than any isekai ever would. Watching this anime when you are a loveless otaku like myself, without wanting to get hit by a truck, is the equivalent to trying to watch adult entertainment without jacking off. It just doesn't happen. Anyway, 2020 has been a pretty insane and stressful year for everyone, in more ways than one, but the biggest issue of all was the total isolation everyone has to go through. It is almost impossible to go anywhere or to meet any new people, and if you are able to for some reason, approaching anyone when it isn't absolutely necessary became the worst thing you could possibly do. With this, it is practically impossible to form any new relationships, especially romantic ones. But who am I kidding? We're all just a bunch of socially awkward otakus who haven't ever experienced what love is unless it is in the 2D form. So that is why Tonikawa Over the Moon for You is such an amazing anime, and the reasoning behind this is because Tonikawa is the perfect solution to that very problem. Why should you have to actually go outside and start relationships with any real people? I mean, that takes actual work and social skills. Especially when you could just stay in the comfort of your own home and watch some cute anime characters do all the hard work for you. Tonikawa is the true big hit of the fall 2020 anime season, and it really deserves that title. While other great romance anime like Plastic Memories of Toradora, for example, are absolutely amazing, by the time the MCs finally confess their feelings for each other or start an actual relationship, the anime usually ends in one way or another, and that isn't necessarily a bad thing. However, on the other side of things, there are the romance anime like Love is War, or any traditional romance/harem anime that are an absolute blast to watch, but no real progress is ever really made. And the main appeal of these shows is really the situations that the MCs are put in, and the if they won't they. I have seen countless romance anime that follow these two rules in one way or another, where nothing ends up happening, or something finally does happen, but then it usually ends. These anime are great, but they do seem to get a little repetitive every once in a while. It is because of this very reason that Tonikawa Over the Moon for You is such a breath of fresh air. In Tonikawa, the main character, Yuzaki Nasa, was a star target for the Isekai & Co. Truck-kun agency, but in an abrupt change of events and poor planning by the Truck-kun rental agency, Nasa was accidentally hit by a prototype Truck-kun. This experimental truck was equipped with an A-tier waifu with it in order to attract any unsuspecting weebs who are starved for love and attention, in hopes of attracting more MCs so that they can mass-produce more isekai protagonists. The truck was intended to work in the same way as the Venus flytrap. The waifu would attract any nearby weebs in a 50-mile radius, and just before they're able to make contact, BAM! New isekai ready for production. In a twist of fate, however, Nasa was not sent to an isekai world. Instead, he flipped the whole situation around on its head and managed to accomplish what hundreds of other romance MCs failed to ever do. And he did this in one episode. Nasa successfully waited until marriage to be able to hold hands with his significant other. While every other romance MC is out there spending an entire season or more trying to build up the courage to ask out their crush, our boy Nasa over here is doing an 80% confession/marriage speedrun while simultaneously creating another heartbroken short blue-haired girl who has feelings for the MC that will never ever be returned, to be thrown into the seemingly endless void of countless others. And the whole premise of Tonikawa is absolutely absurd and crazy, but somehow, someway, in typical anime fashion, still manages to work. At this point, I'm starting to believe an anime could make any crazy idea someone comes up with work. I mean, just look at some other more bizarre plot lines from shows like Domestic Girlfriend, or even something like Darling in the Franxx. They are absolutely ridiculous, but they are still some of my favorite series of all times. Anime can make some of the most absurd things you can imagine an enjoyable show and lovable. Anyway, every episode of Tonikawa is just an absolute joy to watch. Even the most mundane of things, like shopping, ends up becoming one of the most wholesome things you will ever watch. In Tonikawa, nothing really that crazy or out of the ordinary ever happens. It is just happy married couple doing happy married couple things. While that may sound boring at first, Tonikawa somehow manages to make it fun and entertaining. The story is exactly what you would expect it to be if two people just got married. The best part about Tonikawa is its attention to detail and all the thought and attention that goes into the little things. The anime just gives you small things here and there that just make the anime so enjoyable to watch. One example of this would be when the couple are in a bus and Nasa thinks to himself, I kinda wish Tsukasa would lean on me, while he is watching her sleep. And then, I kid you not even 2 seconds later, the bus bumps over something, pushing Tsukasa right onto Nasa's shoulders. Or another example of this would be when the couple decides to get a camera for their trip, and Nasa takes some pictures of Tsukasa and thinks they are so cute that he can't stop taking them, which in turn leads to a cute exchange between the two, where Tsukasa takes the camera from Nasa and takes a picture of him aggressively trying to get a Polaroid of her to dry, and playfully says, now I'll never forget the day my husband decided to suddenly shoot a bunch of pictures of me with his eyes bloodshot, with such a cute and smug look on her face as she says it. Overall, the chemistry between Nasa and Tsukasa is just amazing. Both of them are great, and a big plus is that Nasa isn't the super pervy deviant like a certain someone who rents girlfriends. He's actually a good guy. And oh, Tsukasa? Well, dear God, is she amazing. While her character, personality, and even appearance may seem pretty ordinary and basic, somehow Tsukasa manages to make herself so fucking cute. I mean, just look at the way she eats, and that smug look she always gets on her face from time to time whenever she proves a point or does something she's proud of. Or how she is the cutest sleeper you could ever watch. Oh, and did I mention, she always uses the pet name Darling. While that last point may have been a personal weakness of mine, I think you get my point. Watching is just a single episode of Tonikawa feels like you are taking over 10 doses of wholesomeness at once, causing you to overdose, and yet as you continue watching, you still proceed to keep injecting yourself over and over and over again, with levels of wholesomeness so extreme that it makes you start to believe that life might actually not be that bad. And maybe, just maybe, inspire you to go out in the real world and start a relationship of your own. In my opinion, one of the best things Tonikawa does is shine a positive light on marriage. Personally, in real life, most marriages I know end in divorces. So many, in fact, I get surprised whenever I hear people say they're still married after being married for a while. It probably also doesn't help that in most modern TV and movies, marriages never really seem to go well, and you never really see any people happy with each other, because that isn't entertaining enough. But Tonikawa doesn't care about that. It manages to make it entertaining, doesn't even have to rely on some of the typical anime tropes like misunderstandings or anything like that, to create extra problems that would put a ripple between the two MCs, which would give the series something to do over the next couple of episodes. The main reason why Tonikawa doesn't do that is because there is no need to. Tonikawa is just enjoyable enough on its own. Honestly, Tonikawa really surprised me with how good it actually was. When I first read about it, I thought it would definitely be interesting, but it would be like a pretty standard romance with constant issues showing up, and having the MCs being mad at each other for what it feels like half of the entire season. I'm also kind of surprised that such a wholesome and amazing show was able to be created during the absolute shitstorm that is 2020. Tonikawa just feels so misplaced amongst all the chaos that is going on in the world right now. It's like seeing a blooming flower, thriving and looking absolutely beautiful, right in the middle of a landfill that has just taken ablaze. By the time you finish watching Tonikawa, that strong urge every weeb secretly has deep down inside of them to jump in front of a truck so that they can be transported to another world is so strong that not even a straitjacket could hold them back. If watching an isekai wasn't enough for you to want to jump in front of a truck speeding at 80 miles an hour, watching any episode of Tonikawa sure as hell will. Not because it is so bad you would rather die than watch it, but because you would hurl yourself in front of a speeding truck without hesitation if it meant you would be able to live out the story of Tonikawa for yourself. At least, I know I sure as hell would. If I had the opportunity to live out the life of Tonikawa in NASA's place, I'd do almost anything. Tsukasa, if you are out there, if you asked me to, I'd go over the moon for you.